Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco Yojumbo. I know that people are gonna, for the rest of this review, I'm gonna say Yojimbo, referencing the smaller one, and Yojumbo, referencing this one. I understand it's something like Yojumbo, Yojimbo. I'm not making fun of him, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Obviously, they intended for people to call this the Yojumbo because it is a jumbo-sized version of the Yojimbo, and it is kind of a play on words. So I'm going to follow suit and refer to it as that. This knife was sent to me by @AmateurKnives on Instagram, who created this wonderful card so that I could show it on the review. Thank you. I actually really like it when people do that. So give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. It is also because of my generous patrons. If you'd like to become a patron and support this content, right, if you're enjoying the daily content uploads, then feel free to check out the link in the description. There's stickers and other cool benefits. Please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Okay, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this jumbo-sized Yojimbo. Overall length of the Yojumbo is coming in at a whopping 9 1/4 inches overall. Blade length is a bit shy of 4 inches, about 3.8. Your cutting edge, just about 3 points. It's about the exact same. Cutting edge and overall blade length is about exactly the same. This knife may or may not be available at the time of this recording. I will link it right down in the description so that you can check this out, as well as the original Yojimbo and you know, Spyderco knives in general if you want to see what else they've got going on right down in the description. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the, whoops, grabbed the wrong knife, Ontario Rat Model 1. The Ontario Rat Model 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. You can see they're definitely a big knife. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Here's a size comparison a lot of people like to see. Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. I know you guys would love for me to have the Yojimbo here for me to do a size comparison with, but I don't own that knife and nobody's got one to me on loan right now, so unfortunately I can't do that. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. And last but not least, the Benchmade Mini Griptilian. Mini Griptilian coming in at 6 3/4 inches overall. How is the action on this guy? This is a big, fairly thick, heavy Wharncliffe blade. It is absolutely fall shot. Absolutely. Sorry, that was a bad. You gotta remember, I don't have a lot of space between here and here, so I have to do things at an angle considering where I'm sitting. It's a bit awkward. As far as your, you know, thumb flick, you can do it. Your reverse flick, you can do it, right? Your Spidey drop, sorry, doing this sideways, you can definitely do it, right? All of the above, it's all there. It's very easy to manipulate. The compression lock on this guy is awesome. About the same. So here's something I want to point out. You know the thing that people complain about with the Shaman? I had somebody really jump down my throat about making fun of people for the whole nub thing with the Shaman. Here's my proof that people don't really, it doesn't really matter to people as much as they claim it does. The Shaman has this little nub right here, right? And when the blade comes down, it touches my finger. Okay, it's a natural response to simply move your finger out of the way. I truly had forgotten that people actually complained about that when the Shaman first came out, because I adapted to it, and I realized it legitimately is not a problem in the first place. The Yojumbo has essentially the same thing. We haven't heard a squeak about that from the knife community. I'm sure people will start to, oh yeah, that's right. I don't like that because now that I'm aware of it, right? No. What I'm cracking jokes, I'm making fun of people. That is not something to be concerned with. That is a very nitpicky, coming from somebody who is a nitpicky, obnoxious reviewer when it comes to little tiny details in a knife. I'm telling you guys, that is not an issue, right? For whatever reason, people highlighted it on the Shaman. I think it was because one guy, like way in the back, was like, there's a nub on it and it bothers my finger. And then other people were like, oh, I'm suddenly aware of this. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. And it is a problem. No, it wasn't a problem in the first place. It was just something that was brought up. And then I think, you know, and I do this too. I'm like, oh, I wasn't aware of that. Maybe that is an issue, right? And then in practice, I find out, no, it was just kind of a silly complaint, right? That's why we haven't heard a squeak of it about the Yojumbo. I'm sure somebody in my comment section will be like, my friend, you know, Bill from down the street said it was an issue. All right, but it's proof that in some situations you just have more, more things. Things like this catch fire more readily with certain models, right? Especially with really popular stuff. The Shaman was really popular. People were, oh gosh, the Shaman Golden Light, right? So there had to be one person like, well, here's an issue with it, you know. I've had a lot of caffeine. Yeah. So, if you are somebody who's bothered by the nub thing, I'm sorry that little things like that bother you. It is technically present on the Yojumbo, but it's not an issue. And if you hear somebody saying it's an issue, don't be bothered by that, because just like with the Shaman, you'll adapt to it in about 12 seconds. Literally about 12 seconds. All right. Condescending rant over. Let's go ahead and proceed here. Carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Surprisingly, it's the same thickness as the Para 3. Dimensionally, though, this is a much different beast. Absolutely. Up against two knives that have awkward carry profiles that nobody ever really complains about. The PM2 and Para 3. You can see here length and height. This thing is much longer and taller. Yeah, absolutely. No matter which way you go about it, it is taller than the PM2 and Para 3. So this is just gonna be a bit too big for most people. That's just gonna be the case. If you are, you know, somebody who is used to carrying larger knives and you can legally carry them, it may not bother you as much. But I think the vast majority of people are gonna find that this thing is just an absolute monster in the pocket, and it's just not gonna work. It's actually, admittedly, it's actually too big for me, somebody who regularly does carry a larger, heavier knife. This is a little bit over the limit for me, even though I can legally carry it, right? Weight, I don't think it's too bad. Let's go ahead and you can get my flashlight right down in the description. On the inside here, we've got full unmilled. No, there's some milling on this side. Sorry. Milling on that side. And then we've got G10, and then the blade. I should have done blade stock thickness first. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. Blade stock thickness on the Yojumbo, I'm going to guess 145 thousandths, 150 thousandths, 145 thousandths, so a little thicker than the PM2. About the same thickness as the Spyderco Shaman, I think. I think the Shaman's just a slight increase in thickness over the PM2. Weight, not coming in crazy, 5.26 ounces. I think that's actually about what the Shaman weighs. And so it's not, I mean, you know, for some people that's just going to be too heavy. It's over the 4 ounce mark. If you go by the ounce and inch on the blade thing, right, then it's going to be over that mark. It is certainly just going to be too big and too heavy for a lot of people. Weight-wise, it's not too big for me. It's mostly length and just the overall room that it takes up in my pocket. Even somebody who only carries a knife in their designated knife pocket, right? It's just kind of too much for me. But that doesn't mean that it won't work for some people, right? And especially, here's the other thing. If you're just somebody who's like, I don't care, I just think it's cool, I get that. Because the cool factor with this thing is certainly present. So, yeah. You know, don't let anybody tell you can't carry it, unless it's the law, right? If the law says that you can't carry it, you shouldn't be carrying it, because you get in trouble. You'll get in trouble for that. Let's see here. Hardware check. Let's go ahead and get out my tools. My tools are very, very recommendable. These two options right here are very inexpensive. I also have expensive options. You can find all this stuff right down in my description. I'm going to guess, like most Spydercos, we're looking at a T10 pivot. This is a US Spyderco, by the way. Yeah, pivot's T10. There's an adjustment head on both sides. And then I'm thinking the rest of these screws are T8s. It certainly looks like it. We're going to go ahead and check. T8 right here. Yep. Yep. T8. Fantastic. Something to be aware of. Spyderco screws are they've been known to be a little weak. Make sure that you have exactly the right size bit before you go adjusting this, and be very careful as you adjust them. I don't think Spyderco knives have red Loctite on them anymore, but you should still be careful when you're adjusting anything or taking it apart. But, you know, the fact that we're working with T10 and T8 is all the more welcome given that reason. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this thing. So, this is obviously a gigantic knife. For a lot of people, that's going to be enough to get them to want to buy it. Ergonomics, like right up here in this position, if you're going to jam these two fingers into this area right here, which I believe is how it's intended to be held, it's pretty comfortable, right? Corners are nicely knocked down. What's not super comfortable on the bare hand is this very aggressive peel play texturing. Now, also, I understand that the main design philosophy here with this knife is self-defense. I get that. I am not somebody who knows anything about self-defense, and my channel is not really in any way, shape, or form a self-defense channel. My channel is about folding knives and whether or not they fit into the common man's, EDC world, right? This is something that I said in the Yojumbo review. It's something that I said in this unboxing for this Yojumbo. Regardless of what this was made for, the vast majority of people will use this for regular cutting tasks. Does that mean that that I don't respect the self-defense community or the effort that goes into designing knives or basically learning how to do it? No, not at all. I very much respect people who do that. But just so that everybody knows, I think that the validity in reviewing this as an EDC item is ever more present, because there are way more people who will do simple cutting tasks with this knife than people who will actually use it in a self-defense situation, right? So it is absolutely 100% appropriate to review it as an item that will be used as a simple cutting tool, right? No matter what your reason is for carrying it. So that's what we're going to focus on today. The grip probably has much more to do with just making sure that you're going to hold on to it in a crazy, scenario when you're going, doing whatever with it. I said I wasn't mocking the self-defense community and I'd do something like that. Sorry, I was just joking around. It is comfortable, right? If you're going to move kind of like right here, you end up with your middle finger on that hump. So it's kind of, you either have to be here or you have to be in a position where you're going to split that hump right here. It's kind of, there are large aggressive points right here that heavily suggest where you should be holding this knife. The most comfortable position is here, right? You're going to move back a little. Not saying that you need the choke back. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to chop with it, I guess you'd choke back on it. In most positions, it's okay, right? Right up here, it's pretty good. Mostly what I'm feeling is this really aggressive texturing. And for the 99.9% of people who are going to carry this for, general EDC and regular cutting tasks, right? That, again, is seriously 99.999% of people, right? You're going to notice that this is going to fray up your pants as you pull it in and out of your pants to use it for primarily regular cutting tasks. That's just going to be the case, right? If you wear jeans, they're going to get frayed up. Work pants are going to get frayed up. It's just, it is what it is. The benefit is it's likely not going to come flying out of your pocket, and you're probably not going to drop it. It's very, very secure in hand. There's a lot of room on the handle, and it's pretty comfortable. The pocket clip, you can feel it, right? This is a knife where if I was going to take it out and use it hard, I mean, honestly, this is like a perfect large fixed blade, a large folding knife that has a Wharncliffe blade that's perfect for like a construction site. I mean, obviously, there are better, you're going to cut through shingles. I would use a hook blade or, a utility cut or something with disposable blades. But if you need to make a quick cut or a heavy cut into dense material, right, this large handle, big secure grip, having the extra texturing, right, which is going to be beneficial if you're wearing gloves or if you work in a wet environment. Yeah, for sure. Draw cuts, great. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be beneficial. In an office, right, if you are, somebody who does clerical work, probably probably not. But if you like it because it's cool and your boss is okay with you carrying this big old crazy thing around in the office, then okay. Just expect your khakis to get destroyed. That's probably going to be the case. The blade is certainly the most, you know, this is the part of the knife that's the most striking. This is satin finished. I'm tired of satin finished blades. This is a little bit sharp up here. I would have really liked to see this in the tumbling that we see on the Spyderco Shaman. I don't know why Spyderco just loves doing all of their knives with satin finishes, right? The tumbling that I've seen on the Shaman and the even lighter tumbling that we see on the the Maximum Para 3, oh my gosh, to me it's so much more appealing. But that's a preference thing, right? This is still okay, and I guess if you're going to strike flint off of it, well, then you got a sharp angle there, right? We have a very prominent flat running out about 80%, 85% the length of the blade, and then we have a hollow grind down here to the cutting edge, and it does get relatively thin down here, which is nice. You're going to be able to do, you know, your slicing test's not going to work nearly as well with a worn clip versus a blade that's got belly or curvature in it, but, you know, considering where I would use this, I think it's going to be really welcome. I actually prefer this blade. Like, if I was going to work all day on a construction site, not saying use this knife all day for every last little thing on a construction site, if I was going to work on a construction site, right, opening up a lot of different types of packages, things like that, cutting through dense material periodically that would require a longer blade than what you get on a utility box cutter, then yeah, this is going to be welcome. I'm also going to prefer this blade shape over something like this, because that curvature is not going to be ideal in a lot of those situations, right? I'm sure that it has its purpose in self-defense. I don't know what it is, and it's just not something that I'm interested in, because I don't, you know, it's just not a part of my life. I know a lot of people say, well, it's not about it being a part of your everyday life, it's about preparation. All right, fair enough. Moving on. Why, man, I'm being really callous about that. Sorry. I'm generally a really upbeat person. Again, I'm not, no disrespect to the self-defense community. But yeah, I mean, the blade's going to work. It's just a much longer, bigger, thicker version than the Yojimbo. You can see that it does get fairly thin out there. The tip, I would be careful about jamming that tip into things and prying or wiggling around, because it certainly will be susceptible to snapping. This is CPM S30V. Spyderco loves their standard US models to be in S30V. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a super steel. Yes, I'm using the term super steel, right? Because whether or not you put the word super behind steel has nothing to do with necessarily exactly how long it's been around. We're in the powder form territory, which means at this point it's just a multi-directional teeter-totter which yields different variances of toughness, edge retention, hardness, and corrosion resistance, right? So, are there better steels than S30V? Define better how you will. It depends on who you are and what circumstance, right? We can't say that universally CPM 20CV is a better steel than S30V. It has better, well, I don't know why I'm using the quotes there. 20CV has better edge retention and better corrosion resistance, but is it tougher than S30V? No, S30V is tougher. It's better in terms of toughness. Is it easier to sharpen than S30V? No. CPM 20CV is definitely harder to sharpen than S30V. So as far as sharpenability goes, S30V is better. That's what I mean by multi-directional teeter-totter when we're in this territory, and why I define it still to this day as a super steel, because we're just taking certain elements away, adding other ones in, right? That's all that we can do at this point. It's just change that teeter-totter. So yeah, S30V to me is still a super steel, but it is kind of boring, right? We've seen it forever. It's been around forever, right? It's okay. I think it'll work just fine for this. I'd love to see more S45 VN, Spy 27, steels like that. But yeah, that's a preference thing. It's going to be different for every single person. The inside of this hole is sharp. Every time you do that reverse flick, you're going to shave off a chunk of your fingernail. Every single time. In fact, we just peppered the top here with that. That's alright. It's another reason why I prefer the tumbling, because, you know, this is going to be more comfortable, right? Your thumb flicks, all that's going to be a little bit more comfortable, right? It is what it is. It's okay. Got the Spyderco logo on there. It says Spyderco CPM S30V. On the other side, we have Golden, Colorado, USA, Earth. So that's great. You have multi-directional clip positions, actually tip up, tip down, right or left-handed carry, which is the case with a lot of US Spydercos, and that's great. It is, however, still primarily a right-handed knife, considering the compression lock is a right-handed compression lock. I don't think lefties are going to care too much. Honestly, this knife is still pretty easy to manipulate with your thumb. If I was left-handed, that's exactly how I would do it. Left-handed right there. So that's fine. There are 2 standoffs back here, and there are 2 body screws. You could count these up here. Technically, you do have to take this. So there's 3 body screws on each side because this holds in the stop pin, right? I can understand why they needed that many here. So I get it. I think that Spyderco could just do that thing where they nest the stop pin into the liner and it doesn't necessarily need screws. That's how Hinderer does it, right? We don't have a screw holding this in. It just nests itself into the, well, in this case, 2 titanium pieces. It would otherwise be a titanium lock side and a steel liner. That works just fine, and then you use the hand. In this case, we still have 3 handle screws on each side. It didn't need it. They could have done that and just had 2 screws, but whatever. That's pretty nitpicky, right? Speaking of a super nitpicky knife reviewer, those are the kind of silly things that I complain about, right? So, anyways, moving on here. I'm not sure why they prioritize this one clip over the pocket clip. I mean, and on one hand, I'd like to praise them for just not including a lanyard hole, finally, because who cares about lanyard holes? I know some people, right? Those 7 people are like, we care. Most of us just aren't using lanyard holes, so that's fine they didn't include it, but they still put a freaking screw up here. I think it's the final shape of the handle, right? They needed a screw back. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they could have put the standoff here and moved the pocket clip a little higher. In any case, you have what some people might refer to as shallow carry until you see how much more knife there is actually being held in the pocket. I'm not going to call it shallow carry. I'm certainly not going to call it deep carry, right? There's not much of this thing sticking up out of your pocket, and there's no way it's going anywhere, right? Unless, you plan on doing a lot of hanging upside down and bouncing. If that's not part of your daily life, then it's probably going to be just fine. Spyderco Clip is okay. It has that kind of swoop. The bill comes up and then goes straight, which means it's going to fight some seams of, pocket, like some pocket seams, which is going to be even more difficult considering we have this really aggressive texture right here. If it just came up, that's why I always say I love the MXG deep carry clips, because they come up and you can just push it over the seam. In this case, that flat part of it runs directly into it, which means it's going to fight harder and harder the more you push. This just rises with the seam, so it just works better. But okay, this clip has been around forever. Again, that's a minor nitpick. This side is much the same as the front. This guy's a little bit off center. I want to give it the benefit of the doubt and just say it's probably from the person, the gentleman who has been using this and playing with it. It probably just needs a quick turn of the pivot and it'll be fine. But I have seen some Spyderco knives come from the factory and be off-centered, like my PM2 here. Even though I've got aftermarket stuff on here, this one was a little bit, if I remember correctly, was a little bit off-center. Another thing that I want to point out here is that given the position of this, for whatever reason, I find that this compression lock pinch has just got me right there. Where I want to put my index finger as I'm wheeling this around, every now and then it pinches me. I want people to say, well, just move your hand, right? It's probably one of those things where you'll adapt to it, right? Same thing as the little nub right here, right? You're going to find that putting your finger in a certain place, you're going to find that there's a thing that bothers you. And you're going to go, nah. So you move your hand out of the way, and you'll probably be okay. But just a, fair warning for people who are going to pick this up, don't put your finger up here. It's going to pinch you. There's a lot of tension on that thing, and it really wants to pinch right into that area right there. Ouch. Got me. That's what I'm talking about. Right there. It's pinching me. So move your hand out of the way, right? I think it's just the size of this where I naturally want to put my hands. It just is what it is. The blade locks up absolutely and completely solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. The detent is nice and clicky. Alright, so again, little things that I can nitpick. It's freaking huge. It's huge. Big knife, right? G10 texturing, I think, is way too aggressive for anybody. I think considering the ergonomic lines in this guy, even if the texturing was only half as aggressive, there's probably no way you're going to drop it. I'm not really sure why we have knives like this with such aggressive texturing. I'm sure that there's a reason that has to do with self-defense and making sure that you don't drop it. Okay, fair enough. For the other 99.999% of people who are just not going to be using it for that, it's kind of just excessively aggressive, right? But okay, not that big of a deal. The satin finish, I wish it was tumbled, but not that big of a deal. The pocket clip, not in the most optimal position, not that big of a deal, right? The nub thing, the compression lock thing, right? Just adapt, move your hands out of the way, it'll be fine. U.S. made Spyderco, considering the materials, right? $164 is what they want for this guy. Do I think it's worth it? Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, would it be better if this came in $20 cheaper, right? 140, 145, sure. We're seeing bumps across the board through Spyderco. There are a lot of other knives in Spyderco's line, especially the U.S. part of it, that have just absolutely ridiculous prices. The Shaman, what do they want for that now? $205? What? No. The PM2, they want $150 for that? You know, I mean, a lot of people are like, what? The Yojimbo's basically the same thing. I don't know. I think if this were at $145, the PM2 capped out at $140, and the Shaman capped out at $160, then boy, we'd all just live in a perfect world, or at least I would, right? Do I think $164 is a bad price for this? No. I think most people who pick this up are going to know exactly what it is that they're paying for. I think they're going to be happy with it. It's certainly not a knife for everybody. Whenever I say I recommend a knife, that doesn't mean that I recommend it for everyone. I think that what I mean is for the target audience that it was designed for, right? Do I think that it is a high quality product that is going to serve you well, right, in that scenario, that utilitarian scenario? Yes. And again, people will say, well, what it was designed for was self-defense, and you're recommending it for EDC. I think there are plenty of EDC scenarios, especially like outdoor, construction site type scenarios where, that's what a lot of people who are looking to pick this up and actually planning to use it are probably planning on using it for. And for those people, yeah, I would say very, very, very recommendable. And for people who just like how this looks and they just want to know, hey, is the fidget factor there, right? I'm a knife enthusiast. I like Spyderco knives. Is the fidget factor there? Is it fun to deploy and play with? It is. Just keep the nub thing I could care less about. Seriously, I cannot emphasize enough how aggressively I will wave off that complaint. But keep your fingers out of the way of the compression lock here when you go to flip, like right here. If your fingers press down again, it's going to pinch you. Seriously, keep your fingers clear of that. But yeah, I think this is cool. I think it's kind of ridiculous, right? It's so big and crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to take this out and use it, I think it's going to serve you well. So yeah, I think that's really all that I can say about this knife. This will be going in my Spyderco knives playlist, and it'll also be going in my most recommended knives playlist, or Metal Complex's recommended knives playlist. You can check that out. Like I said, you'll be able to check out links for this guy down in the description, find out whether or not it's available right now, as well as other Spyderco knives that you can buy. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.